This is the book of Annoka's Answer by Marjorie Cowley. And if you kind of look at the cover, you can see there's a girl there who looks like she may not be from our time period. In fact, she is a girl who was at the beginning of civilizations, actually before they had civilizations, when they were still nomads. And it looks like, what's she doing there? Okay, it looks like she's carving or creating some figurines, and she doesn't exactly look at peace. Like maybe she's nervous or she's watching. She looks like inside a cave. So we're going to read Annoka's Answer. The cool thing about this book is it was written by Marjorie Cowley, who is actually an archaeologist, and she wanted to have a way to teach people about early cultures, civilizations, and pre-civilizations. So she took the knowledge she had and wrote this book. And another one called Dar and the Spear Thrower, which is also a good book. If you're interested, you can borrow one from me. Okay, chapter 1, The Lion Cub Waits. Just before dawn, try and follow along. Sometimes it's a little blurry, but we'll try and make it good for you. Just before dawn on a cold spring morning, the wind came up over the river valley where Annoka and her clan lived. It prowled around the family hut, then entered with a whine through the cracks in the mud that sealed the wood and skins together. Annoka burrowed deeper under her bison nightrobe. The wind tangled in her dream and became the whimpering of the lion cub. I want you to pay attention to the language that she uses. Really, she's really good at using figurative language and great word choice. Makes all the difference in your writing. For instance, when she talked about the wind prowling around the family hut and entering with a whine. So wind's not a human person, but she gave it person-like characteristics, which we call personification. And then talked about the wind whimpering. Oh, the wind tangling in her dream, like the whimpering of a lion cub. So using just those words help you paint a picture in your mind. Okay, and that's one thing that good readers always do is they kind of picture it in their mind as they read. Kind of puts you in there with it more and you understand it better. Do you know what a bison is? Notice it said under her bison nightrobe. You know what a bison is? It's a buffalo, yeah. So we can tell what they make their clothes out of, animal skins. Something rough touched her face. She opened her eyes to see her father squatting on his heels beside her. Excuse me. Tor patted her cheek again. Annoka, get up! You have a job to do today. She didn't move. I was dreaming. You woke me up just before a mother lion comes back to her cub. You don't know that she'll return, he said. It's my dream. She'll come back. Tor's head was close to hers. A mother lion can be cruel. If food is scarce, she'll feed herself and let her little ones go hungry. He broke off, his mouth in a thin line, and said no more. In the tense silence, Annoka heard short bursts of laughter and the murmur of excited conversation outside the hut. She sat up. It's still dark. Why is everyone awake? During the night, the salmon spirit called the fish back to our river. Notice that's a sign of some of their religious beliefs, the salmon spirit calling the fish back. Annoka scrambled to her feet. Oh, the first salmon run? Why didn't you tell me? Tora turned his head away. Because you're not going to the river today. Everyone who can goes to the river on the first day of the run, Annoka cried out. Aren't I part of the salmon clan? Yes, but you don't do the work of the salmon clan woman. I told you to help your sister with the first cleaning of the bear skin, but you were nowhere to be found when Nomi spent days on her knees, hunched over that hide, alone. Now the second cleaning must be done. I'll do it tomorrow, she pleaded. The bear skin is too thick and valuable to risk another night's freeze. The illustrations are really great, done by Bryn Barnard. But this is the first run, Annoka said. It won't be, I don't want to miss it. Tor stood and threw aside the hut's deerskin flap. The salmon spirit and the fish keep their own time, not yours. He left. Anouka started to call out to him, but let the cry stop in her throat. She didn't want anyone to know what had happened between them. With tears in her eyes, Anouka sat slumped on her nightrobe. She searched under the fur to find the ivory pendant she always held when falling asleep. Anouka had discovered it buried in the dirt floor of the hut long ago. She had told no one of the pendant, sure that her mother had left it behind. Anouka held the delicate piece next to her face, then traced with a fingertip the 3 circles etched into its surface. Each circle was ringed by 2 outer circles. Her constant touch was beginning to rub the ivory smooth. She longed to make something as beautiful, but it was the way of the Salmon clan that only men could carve. So there we see one of the rules of their clan, that only men could create the art, could create carvings and things. What do we know about her mom? Her mom's gone. Her mom's left, and that's why her dad was kind of angry when he said, "Lion mothers don't always come back." Leaves crunched outside the hut. Anouka quickly returned the pendant to its secret place under her robe, then reached for her tunic. Her sister came in, a troubled look on her usually open and tranquil face. "You were up early," Anouka said. "Did you come back to get your fish knife?" Nomi avoided Anouka's gaze. "I couldn't find it in the dark." Her sister was 15, only 3 years older than Anouka, but already a woman. Her deerskin trousers were tucked into boots that came up to her knees. She wore a fur-lined parka she had recently made. Its loose hood framed her face and set off her high cheekbones. Anouka felt the flicker of envy. Nomi was beautiful. Tight braids circled her sister's head. When Nomi turned away to look for the knife, Anouka tried to smooth back her own thick and unruly hair. The gesture was useless. "Father won't let me go to the river," Anouka said. "I know." Nomi's tone was comforting. "I spoke for you, but he won't change his mind. There will be fishing trips until fall." "But this is the first salmon run, the best day," Anouka cried out. "I don't want to be left behind." Nomi shook her head. "Father gives you no choice. Come, he's waiting for us to help him attach the hide to the frame." She tucked the flat knife into her boot. Anouka noticed a black design on the boot top. "Where did you get the idea to do that?" "I love to watch Mother make clothes," Nomi said, her voice turning slow and dreamy. "The other night when I started the fire, I suddenly remembered her putting a sharpened stick into the flames, then burning a design into the front of a tunic she was making. I did the same." Anouka peered at the design. "It looks like 2 flying geese. Why did you choose them?" "Geese are strong in flight," Nomi said. "They mate for life and they follow the seasons together." "Aw, Nomi, do you really want to marry?" Anouka said. "What if you don't like the man Father picked out for you at the last gathering?" How many of you would like that for your dad or your mom to pick out your husband or wife? And at 15, it's pretty young. Anouka, but you have to think about it, they didn't live as long, so maybe they only lived till 30. Anouka shrugged. "I'm glad I'm not old enough to be married off. I don't want to think about being someone's wife, having to go to his clan to live." There's another rule of this society. When the girl gets married, she goes to live at her husband's clan. So maybe she'd never see her family again. I don't know. "Well, I do want to get married, and your turn will come." Nomi started to leave. "Hurry, Father hates to be kept waiting." Anouka slowly tied her tangled hair back with this strip of leather, put on her trousers and boots, and started to take down the skin parka that Nomi had made for her last summer. It was so worn and stained that she left it hanging on the hook, despite the morning cold. Anouka squared her shoulders and walked past the 6 other huts set among the trees that bordered the camp clearing. Apart from her own family, there were 28 people in the Salmon clan. Today their mood was festive. The 3 mothers with babies were getting out their black slings. 2 men and their older sons bound braided sinew to their harpoons. 4 excited young boys shouted and threw imaginary harpoons at each other. "Got you!" "No, you didn't!" "I'm the best!" "No, I am!" Anouka hurried past 5 girls, all younger than herself, who were helping their mothers pack food into shoulder pouches for the long day ahead. One girl looked up. Annoka, aren't you coming to the river? Quickly shaking her head, Annoka walked through the commotion until she reached the clearing. The bearskin lay stretched out on the ground. Her father stood beside it, his arms folded over his chest. Nomi crouched over the hide, removing the wooden pegs that had kept it taut during the first cleaning. Annoka felt her face blush with shame as she noticed Nomi's rough red hands and jagged fingernails and congealed blood. Fingernails that came from scraping gobs of fat, flesh, and congealed blood from the underside of the bearskin. I should have helped you, Nomi, she said under her breath. I found a fox den full of pups and kept going back to watch them play. What took you so long? Her father's harsh voice broke in. Some have already started for the river. Without answering, Annoka knelt beside Nomi. Together they took out the remaining pegs, then rolled up the icy skin. Tor lifted it to his shoulder and carried it to the standing frame he had set up at the outer edge of the clearing. Annoka shivered without her parka. Why so far from the hearth? The hearth is the fireplace. The fire. Tor dropped the bearskin next to the frame. When the sun warms the hide, those left in camp will not welcome the smell. In silence, they laced short strips of sinew through the peg holes, then lifted the hide and secured it to the frame with the strips. The bearskin was stiff and heavy, and their cold hands made the job even harder. I've made you a new scraper, Tor said, handing Annoka a blunt-edged flint tool. A flint tool is like made out of stone, but like chipped to a nice sharp edge. He opened his waist pouch and took out onion bulbs and a piece of dried deer meat. He offered them to her on his outstretched palm. I don't want food, Annoka said. I want to go to the river. The muscles of her father's jaws clenched. He shoved the food back into his pouch and walked away. Nomi waved as she hurried to catch up with the fishing party. Annoka waved back weakly, her hand held low. With tears blurring the bearskin in front of her, she felt as abandoned as the cub in her dreams. So that's our introduction to Annoka. And so I want you to think about the word choices, especially that she uses throughout. What's going to happen with Annoka? She sounds a little strong-willed. What do you think? What kind of character traits do you see in Annoka? I think she's strong-willed because she kind of stands up for what she wants and what she wants to do. But there's some other traits that are maybe a little more challenging, so think about that. Okay, we'll read more in class.